Okay, now that we've moved into Imperial a little bit more, we're going to move on to area. But first, let me just kind of recap where we are. Remember, in the very last lesson, we looked at how to convert between different types of, SI and Imperial units. If you go back one more, we focused on how to convert Imperial units. So, for example, there was, going feet to yards, yards to miles, etc., etc. So, we're going to keep working with SI units, Imperial units. We're going to keep working with conversions. But the nice part about this lesson is we're working, this is all now in terms of area. The nice part about that is we did area when we were looking at SI. So, generally speaking, we were looking at squares and rectangles. Remember, the area of a rectangle was length times width. And remember, it always gave you something squared. So if this was, let's say, 6 centimeters, which is the SI unit, and this was 4 centimeters, that would give us 24 centimeters squared. Remember, it was a two-dimensional, we were measuring in 2 dimensions, so that's why you got the 2. If you had a square where every side is the same, if I actually could draw properly, that would be area equals side times side, and area would be 6 times 6, or you might go 6 squared, it doesn't matter, which you would get 36, if I put meters, I suppose, meters squared. Anyway, the only thing I see really different here is now we're dealing with imperial measurements. Sometimes working with feet and inches can be a little bit confusing, but I think if you're on track with your conversions of how to go in between imperial measurements, you should be just fine. So we'll just do a few examples and then I'll give you some practice and we'll go on from there. I am going to skip this activity at the bottom of the page. I don't want to do that. So I'm just waiting for the page to change. Okay, now, did I go one too many pages here? No, I didn't. Okay, so here's what we have. I just want to go over a few basics with you. Basically, you have a square inch, a square foot, a square yard. I did this with centimeters and millimeters. I mean, basically, if you had a square inch, a perfect square inch, each side would be 1 inch, because if you were to do the square, like area equals side times side, well, it'd be 1 times 1, it'd be 1 inch squared. Same thing with a foot. I mean, it would be bigger, of course, but you'd have 1 foot, which of course would be 1 foot squared, and so on and so forth. Basically, there are just a couple more things I want to tell you here, and this can be found, generally speaking, on your table. So we're looking at the imperial conversion factors and some things that might come into play. If you have 1 square, I'll change that. That looks terrible. If you have 1 foot squared, that is equal to 144 inches squared, and that is on your table, like I said. Another one that you might want to use from time to time is if you have 1 yard squared, that is equal to 9 feet squared. So instead of making you memorize these things, they're all on your conversion factors table, and we will use some of these to essentially answer some questions. I'll go down here, this one. A person buys wallpaper. The roll of wallpaper is 18 meters wide, and the walls are 8 feet high. She plans to cover the walls. What is the area that can be covered with 1 vertical strip? So basically what the person's doing is taking wallpaper, which I'm not sure if you've had the pleasure of doing before, but it's an interesting process. Basically, we know how long it is. It has to be 8 feet. So from top to bottom, it is 8 feet. The problem is that the width is 18 inches wide. So you have some choices here. It didn't really say which measurement we want. So let's just say we want the area, because it doesn't say if they want it in inches or in feet. Let's go with feet. Let's say we want the area in feet. If we want the area in feet, because we know that area is length times width for a rectangle, this right here has to be changed into feet. As you know that there is 12 inches in a foot. So you can do the math, whatever. I mean, I'm sure you can do this. It essentially would be 18. Because actually, I kind of wish, I would like you to do this on your own. I mean, essentially what you would just do is go 18 divided by 12, and it is 1.5. But I'm hoping that you can see that If 1 foot is 12 inches, well, where's 18? Well, that's 6 inches above 12. Halfway, it's 1.5 feet. So I would rewrite this as 1.5 feet. And now you can go to town on this. So area equals 8 feet times 1.5 feet. And that's going to give you a grand total of 12 feet squared. Okay, nothing too big there. We could have gone into inches, which totally would have been fine, because this question does not specify. So I tell you what, just to play ball here, I'll do a second version, but this time we'll put it into inches squared. If that is the case, we would have to change this 8 feet into inches. So let's see how we would do that. So we have, let's figure out how many inches we have in total here. So remember, all we have to do is go 8 times 12. So 8 times 12 should be 96, which it is. So essentially we would take this, we would take this, we would change this to 96 inches. Area equals length times width. We would go 96 inches times 18 inches. So 96 times 18 would be 1,728 inches squared. Another way of saying that is if you looked at this strip of paper, there would be 1,728 perfect squares that are 1 inch by 1 inch. So you know, if you look at, let's say, this square right here, it would be 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. And there would be 1,728 of those on that strip of wallpaper. So again, this question was a little weird because it didn't specify if they wanted it in feet squared or inches squared. So that's why I'm just doing both of them for you. I figured that would be much easier. Okay, moving along. This is just talking about some bigger areas now. You know, like when we talk about, when we were in the SI system, we looked at square kilometers or hectares. Well, in the Imperial system, they talk about acres and square miles. Basically, you just want to know some of these conversion factors. I'll leave them right here. I'm not going to go too much into this history. By all means, you know that this will be printed out for you. Or sorry, you can print this out and do the practice questions, and you can read all this or pause on your own time. Anyway, I'll just move on here to some practice questions for you. So here you have an American football field is 360 feet by 160 feet. Is that smaller, the same, or larger than 1 acre? Well, you don't really know. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is look at your conversion factors sheet under the Imperial section, top right. See, it's interesting. There's no straight conversion between feet and acres. But what could you do? You see, what caught my eye on that page was there was that one part where it says 1 acre, 1 AC is 4,840 yards squared. So here's what I was thinking. You see, you kind of have to have a strategy here because I don't think it's the math that would get anybody. It would be kind of where do I start and where do I go? So sometimes, okay, let me start again. So here's what I did. I'm in feet. Can I get to acres? I look at the Imperial conversion factors. Nope, I can't. The only thing that has anything to do with acres is yards. So if I want acres, that means I've got to get into yards. Can I do that? Yes, I can. Look, it says I have a conversion between square yards and square feet. So that's the ticket. So here we go. So we're going to do our area in square feet first. So area is length times width. So 360 feet times 160 feet. That's going to give us, you know what? Actually, I think I can probably cheat this even better. You know what I can do? Why wouldn't I just change these right into yards right away? Let's do that. Let's do that right now. Whoops. Let's do this. You see that 360 feet? And you see this 160 feet? Let's change that right into yards right away. Because remember, 1 acre is 4,840 yards squared. So I'll tell you what. How do we go from feet into yards? Well, it says right there that 1 yard is 3 feet. So long story short, divide by 3, and that will give you your number of yards. This is 120 yards. This is 53.3 yards. Now I'm doing that a little bit quickly, but believe me, the conversion factor is on your sheet there. It says 1 yard is 3 feet, and all you would do here, you would have gone 360 feet, and you would have gone, and it'll give you 120 yards. Anyway, that by now I'm hoping that we can go in between yards and feet pretty easily. Now that I have that, I tell you what, now I'm going to figure out my area in square yards. That is going to give me an area of 6,400 yards squared. Now, here's what we're going to do. Let's take a look. I now know my area in square yards. Now, what do the questions say? They want to know, so they tell you the dimensions of a football field, and it says, is the area of the football field smaller, the same, or larger than 1 acre? Well, look at this now. Here is our area of our football field. Here is 1 acre. 1 acre is 4,840 yards. This is way bigger. So I am thinking that the football field is bigger than 1 acre. Okay? So this question was all about kind of figuring out some ways. Now I'm not saying I did the only way. I'm not. I didn't. There are other ways. As you can see, I even backtracked. But my point to you is, you have to kind of think of where you're going and how can you get there. And the key to figuring out that path is by looking at your conversion sheet. You needed to get acres. Well, what the heck deals with acres? It's square yards. So that was the trick, to tell you to go from feet into yards and allow you to make the comparison. Without that, you really had nowhere to go. Okay, let's do another example. Converting Imperial and SI units of area. It says convert 1 inch squared to 1 square centimeter. Well, okay, I can do that. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to draw out, pretend this is 1 perfect square. If it's a square inch, that means every side is 1 inch. Because of course, if you use the formula, 1 times 1, that would give you 1 inch squared. Anyway, but they want this in centimeters squared. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm simply going to go down and I'm going to figure out how many inches are there in a centimeter. If you look on your sheet towards kind of the middle left, a little bit below middle, it tells us that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So really, this is 2.54 centimeters. And this is 2.54 centimeters. So you want to figure out the area, just use a formula now with the new values. 2.54 centimeters times 2.54 centimeters. Area equals about 6.4516 centimeters squared. Pretty easy conversion, not too much going on there. Okay, I think I have one more example for you. Okay, a person has a living room with 180 feet squared. What is the area in square meters? Well, let's just see here if we get lucky and if we have a direct conversion between feet squared and meters squared. Now, where am I in my conversion factor sheet? I'm on the bottom, actually, bottom left. You look, so that the main heading, of course, is SI and Imperial, and then there's a subheading for area. And we know directly that 1 meter squared is 10.7639 feet squared. So let's just put that into one of our proportions and go for it. So 1 meter squared over 763.9 feet squared. Our question was 180 feet. Feet were on the bottom left, so go on the bottom right. You would cross multiply and divide. So to figure out your answer, you go 180 times 1. Anyway, the point is multiply these two. hit enter, which of course is 180, and then divide that by the 10.7639, and that will give you an answer of 16.72 meters squared. So maybe if this has taught me anything, is you have to become very fluent with finding conversion factors on the conversion factor sheet. If you can find the information you need, you'll kind of know where to start and where to go. Please try the practice questions that are associated, because I will upload this as a blank copy.